There is a rumor out there started by Adam Schefter, or I guess a report out there, that the Kliff Kingsbury and now Urban Meyer has been added to the list as well, that they could be interested in potentially looking at college head coaching jobs. Because if you haven't heard the latest news, Schefter did not report the Urban Meyer thing, just so you know. But Schefter did report that Oklahoma was considering as a possible candidate Arizona Cardinals head coach Kliff Kingsbury. Urban Meyer once coached at Notre Dame. He may have been
coach Notre Dame,
and I think he was an offensive assistant under Scott Linehan there.
Because Bowling Green, Utah.
He was a wide receivers coach for 4 years at Notre Dame.
What was that?
1996 through 2000. He worked with Scott Linehan, but I can't remember if it was at.
So wait, that was after Bowling Green?
No, this was before he became a head coach.
Gosh,
he was there under. He was there for I think maybe 1 year with Lou Holtz, and then with Bob Davie. But I think Scott Linehan was on that staff.
All right, no one cares about Scott Linehan. What's the story?
Well, I mean, it's actually kind of an interesting one, but we can get to it later. Whatever. So yeah, I don't know what the connection was. I can't remember what the connection was there. Anywho, Urban Meyer, coach at Notre Dame, has always talked about how Notre Dame has a special place in his heart and how that's a place he would like to go back and recruit and coach. So Urban's name being floated now that Brian Kelly is leaving Notre Dame to go to LSU. And of course, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go to USC, which, by the way, is going to set off just an insane 72 hours of dominoes in college football coaching as everyone is jockeying to try and find these guys to replace these big gigs, which is going to lead to dominoes trickling down or falling down and bringing up, mid-major coaches. Everyone's been getting contract extensions. These schools apparently have money. Brian Kelly's getting $15 million. Lincoln Riley got an obscene amount of cash too. But the point about Kliff Kingsbury, and actually that's a great segue into the Kliff Kingsbury thing, because it is my understanding and my belief that Kliff Kingsbury has no interest in the Oklahoma job, and that Oklahoma would consider Kliff Kingsbury, but probably isn't hiring a guy who just got fired from the Texas Tech job, tossed out of Lubbock, where he played, by the way, unceremoniously, and then went to Arizona. Kliff only has 1 year left on his contract. He wants a raise and extension. He is 9-2 in first place in the entire NFC, with a franchise quarterback fully secured, who is in the MVP conversation when he's healthy, running his offense. Kliff ain't bouncing.
You just ripping off Charles Robinson straight up, huh? Not even give him credit.
What are you talking about? I mean, everyone knows that. Charles Robinson definitely tweeted it. I quote tweeted Charles.
I'm just saying, you're not giving credit. That seems like something Kliff Kingsbury would do.
Do you think that Kliff Kingsbury would consider going to Oklahoma, or do you think this is?
No, that's for the reasons.
Kliff was asked about it and said, I'm really focused on the Bears right now.
Yeah, but I mean, they asked Lincoln Riley if he was going to take the LSU job. He said no, which is true. They asked Brian Kelly.
He said, I'm not going to be the next LSU coach, is what he said.
They asked Brian Kelly what his plans were, and he said, I got to ask my wife. He mentioned Tomlin's remark when he was asked about the.
He said if a fairy godmother showed up with $250 million, maybe I'll check with my wife. And then the fairy godmother from LSU showed up.
And as someone else noted, no, it's Charles or you or someone else, but Kliff Kingsbury hates recruiting. Well, why would you? I mean, that's all that is. That's all those jobs are, is recruiting guys. By the way, you mentioned Lincoln Riley and the haul he got. Robert Hefner V on Twitter. I don't know if this is true or not, but have you seen what he?
Yeah, I think that's I don't think that's worth speculating on. I think that's more of like internet rumor than.
Well, it's awesome. He only says he got. Oh, he doesn't have maybe someone else mentioned the annual salary. It sounds like it's less than what you mentioned for Brian Kelly. But all right, I won't repeat it. That makes you angry.
So I think it's pretty unlikely that Kliff goes anywhere. I think Kliff gets an extension. Michael Bidwell is the type of owner who would panic at the thought of his 9-2 team losing its head coach to Oklahoma. And also, you're not leaving a number 1 seed NFC team in the middle of a season to go take the Oklahoma job. I mean, like, what kind of garbage is this? Yeah, it's crazy talk. So
plus Spencer Rattler's leaving. Kelly Williams still there. They had like 3 5-star guys already decommit. And again, if you don't like recruiting, you already got your 5-star quarterback. His name's Kyler Murray. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. So I think that Kingsbury is angling for a raise and an extension. He only has 1 year left on his deal. Makes total sense. You get your owner to panic because he's sitting there thinking, oh my God, we're 9-2. I got this coach that's white hot. People want him. I don't think there's any NFL coach. If there was one, it would be Kliff, I guess. But
if I'm the Bidwells, I'm like, all right, man. So he makes $5.5 million a year, and Charles Robinson speculates that he might be looking for $9 or $10 million a year.
That is.
If I'm Mike Bidwell, right? It's Mike.
No.
Mr. Bidwell, whatever his first name is, I can't keep up with him. I'm like, all right, Kliff, what do you want? I'm not freaking out and overpaying Kliff because I feel I don't.
Bidwell?
What does it say?
Anyway, just keep going. Sorry.
I just feel like I'm still not
Michael Bidwell. Sorry, Michael Bidwell. Yes,
I'm not sure if Kliff is a good coach or not. He might be. It's hard to tell. He hasn't gotten in the way of Kyler Murray, which is a positive development. But I'm not paying him double his salary. I mean, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do it, but if I'm just telling, just my sense of it is that Michael Bidwell would just split the difference. I mean, what more likely would happen is that was a move by Kliff Kingsbury's agent to float that news. And look, if you're Kingsbury's agent, who's Eric Burkhart, you call. He's good at his job. You call.
No, I'm laughing at something else. Go ahead.
You call Oklahoma and you say, man, so you got an opening, huh? My man Kliff over here is killing it now. It's just the problem was Texas Tech, just didn't have the resources, but you got to get him back in get his offense back in college. And Oklahoma was like, all right, well, And I watched the presser today with the Oklahoma people. The AD said, sometimes you have this list of guys that you keep handy in case you need to hire somebody, and then sometimes people you didn't think previously would be available pop up and like the way he said it sounded like, oh man, sure does seem like they've talked to Kingsbury's people. So at that point, you can legitimately leak out Kliff is being considered for the job, even if he's not going to interview in the middle of the NFL season. It's ridiculous. So
how much would you pay a Steelers beat reporter to ask Mike Tomlin if he wants Oklahoma's job this week?
You need like 9 or 10 million because Tomlin's jumping on that podium and beating you down if you ask him again. And you'll never get any information for the rest of your life. So I think Kingsbury is just angling for cash, and I think he will probably get it.
Yeah.
And look, this is the time when you angle for cash.
Absolutely.
It's an easy sell.
Don't blame the guy cashing checks. Blame the guy writing them. So I would be like, all right, he's making $5.5 million. He's actually done a good job. I'll give you $7.5 million a year.
And then you say, look, take it to 8 with incentives. If we win the Super, or you say, hey, here's the deal. We want to agree in principle on this contract. If we win the Super Bowl, this goes to 9 or 10, or we make it to the NFC Championship game. And I think that's perfectly fine.
So
the
audio.
The other guy, Urban Meyer.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, Debo's got that. Go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah. So a Pete tweet from a few minutes ago. How many Jaguars fans hope Urban Meyer goes to Notre Dame? I bet it's all of them. Urban Meyer's things have settled down a little bit, just in the sense that now they're just losing football games and there's not a weekly Urban Meyer related scandal happening in Jacksonville. But by and large, not a great first year for Urban Meyer in Jacksonville in his first run as an NFL head coach. There is probably only, and I say this, knowing that if there was something happened to, like Nick Saban became deathly ill and had to step away. I'm just saying, there was probably only one job that Urban could justifiably walk away from the Jaguars in the middle of or at the end of his first year to take in college and have people be like, okay, kind of give me that one without just berating him for it. And it's Notre Dame. And no one thought Notre Dame was going to come open because Brian Kelly was winning there. Notre Dame might still make the playoffs this year. And Urban, I'm not saying Urban's going to leave for it, but if I'm Notre Dame and I want to win, I am calling Urban Meyer because all he does is win in college football.
Yeah, but it's harder to win at Notre Dame than just about everywhere else in terms of and that's why Brian Kelly left. So can he replicate?
I think he left because of the $15 million, but yeah.
And a chance to legitimately win. You can get any player you want at LSU. You can't through academic reasons.
100%.
Yeah. The money probably didn't hurt, but
you do have a monopoly on Catholic players.
Is Brady Catholic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Irish Catholic even.
Is that common knowledge? You could be Irish Protestant. I mean, you don't know.
I don't think Irish Protestants are going to Notre Dame, buddy.
Jerome Bettis is Catholic?
Pretty sure Brady Quinn is Catholic. Text him and ask him. You were doing on HQ with doing a you kowtowed to Brady's demands to put Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah. Sure. If that's what you want to call him.
That's the guy from Michigan that you put number one.
That's him.
Yeah.
What I was going to say before we put up that tweet from our good buddy Pete, in talking about the where Kliff fits in, if he wants and truly does want $9.5 million, as Charles Robinson's speculating, Bill Belichick's number one at $12.5 million, according to NBC Chicago, published something about a month ago, based on the latest numbers that they found. I don't know if this is how accurate it is or not. I'm gonna go pretend it is. Belichick's first at 12.5, Pete Carroll's second at 11 million, Sean Payton third at 9.8 million, John Harbaugh fourth at 9 million. So what you're saying is Kliff Kingsbury would slide into the third spot in between Payton and Harbaugh, ahead of Matt Rhule, where he should be, ahead of Sean McVay, Tomlin, Andy Reid, Bruce Arians, Ron Rivera. Now, this ain't a quarterback situation where the next quarterback gets paid. This is are you truly as good as these coaches situation? And that's why, again, I'm offering him $7.5 million, which puts him just above. It actually only moves him up one spot. He just leapfrogs Ron Rivera. He goes from $5.5 million to $7.5 million, which is what I said. Ron Rivera makes $7 million, so he goes from 11th to 10th. But you make an extra $2 million a year, and you're not Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Now you could also say, hey, they're paying Matt Rhule $8.5 million in Carolina. And my response is Mike Bidwell would be, well, I'm not David Tepper. So you need to talk to him if you want that sort of money.
Yeah. I just think that you would have you have leverage right now.
Who?
Kliff Kingsbury.
But how much? Does he have $9.5 million leverage, or does he have $7.5 million leverage?
Probably split the baby and go to 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I mean, for Kliff Kingsbury, you get that raise and you set things up, and then
you're
again,
making.
You build it in where you say, look, if we win the Super Bowl, I'm gonna want significant bonuses and whatnot. Everybody's got built into their contracts. Do you think if you're Urban Meyer, are you thinking about bouncing? Because you can, again, really, like, Notre Dame has always been the spot that he's been linked to, rumored to, etc. If you're Urban, are you at least thinking about it? And because you can get out of this Jacksonville thing, and sure, you leave the Jags in the lurch, but you save some face in the event that you are just going to lose for the rest of your time in Jacksonville, which, not that insane an idea.
Well, let's think. Yeah, I've been on the Urban ain't staying bandwagon forever. Let's look at it this way, though. USC job came open early on, and we said, okay, he's leaving there. LSU job came open. Florida job came open. Notre Dame job came open. Of those four, Notre Dame is probably the worst in terms of going somewhere and turning things around, or being competitive, I should say.
Wait, so what were the four again? LSU,
Florida, USC, Notre Dame.
I would disagree. I think USC is 1.
Why is USC 1?
Because Lincoln Riley can go there and, it's like Oklahoma, basically. There's nobody to beat to get to the college football playoff.
Okay. Well, I mean, Florida, SEC, you get all those guys, all the Florida kids, all the Georgia kids.
Florida has to play in Georgia's division. And
Urban Meyer crushed at Florida.
Yeah, but Georgia's good now.
Okay. Or Georgia wasn't terrible when he was there. Matthew Stafford was at Georgia when he was there.
Okay. Matthew Stafford won a lot of, hey, Breech. I'm just saying, I don't look at, I think Notre Dame and USC are better jobs because they have easier paths to the college football playoff.
Well, I mean, how many national championships has Brian Kelly won versus what LSU?
Yeah, I don't think Notre Dame has an easy path to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Because
I was just saying, Breech, that because Brinson was mentioning that should Urban take this Notre Dame job, he's had ties there. He coached there back in the day as an assistant. And I said, well, the USC job came open, then the Florida LSU job, and now Notre Dame. And if I were ranking them, I think Notre Dame would be the least attractive if you had serious consideration about those other three. That's all I was saying. No thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't hear all the Florida. What was the other ones?
Pay attention. Look
you
up
said too
Florida,
many things.
USC, Notre Dame, and LSU.
Yeah, I mean Notre Dame. I feel like USC is the best in terms of prestige, easiest to get to the national title game because the Pac-12 is the weakest conference. But LSU, I guess maybe Saban's going to retire, in the next 5 years. So, but you got to last that long.
But I'm talking about just the recruiting that you're able to do in those places without the academic regulations of a Notre Dame. And, listen, kids from the South don't like going to play in cold weather in general.
This is true.
So,
No,
yeah, I mean,
Notre Dame is at a recruiting disadvantage. Brian Kelly's probably going to go to LSU and smash because he's going to be able to. He's going to get
recruiter?
guys that he couldn't, like you said, get guys he couldn't get before.
Is he a good recruiter? Like, I don't have any idea. Like, who's?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, he just alienated a bunch of kids with its BCC text he sent out.
Lincoln Riley seems okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln. I'm telling you, Lincoln is going to obliterate in the Pac-12 with that offense in that weather and that setup with those recruits. He had all basically all of his recruits were from California. That's why they ponied up and paid him because they were tired of losing California recruits to Oklahoma. Anywho, as it relates to the NFL, the other thing that I think is at least interesting to look at, Matt Rhule, very good college coach at both Temple and Baylor, has not been great with the Carolina Panthers. Year 3, big rebuild thing, but the Sam Darnold decision was a bust. They've had some very nice draft picks. I think they're building correctly on defense. Do you think he at least? I mean, he's got to be getting some buzz from these schools who are looking for somebody big to replace the big name that left. I mean, you would think Notre Dame is at least calling Matt Rhule, right?
I don't know what the stipulation of his NFL contract is. And as I mentioned, he makes $8.5 million a year. But again, I don't know. I mean, it's a year and a half. It hasn't gone well, as you've noted. So maybe he is looking to
2.5. But yeah, or is it a year and a half? It was only
this is a year and a half.
Wow.
Almost. Yeah, feels like 2.5 for sure.
Right.
But yeah, maybe. I mean, you would say no. I feel like he'd be more likely to stay than Urban Meyer, who I've long felt that he's on the way out before he even unpacked his boxes. But I mean, he doesn't have a quarterback. You can recruit a quarterback easier than you can trade for Deshaun Watson, apparently.
Yep. Smash that like button if you're enjoying the chatter on the old college footballs. Wilson, who you had by the way, it's crazy how this stuff just changes in college. The other thing too is if you're an NFL coach, you have to work your ass off, obviously. But you're not taking a bunch of vacation time. You're not seeing your family very much. College coaches get more, they get more breaks, but their break is longer. It definitely is. But they also have to recruit.
Bye.
What a mic drop.
I guess
They also have to recruit.
Great way to end
Peace.
for Brinson.
Yeah, he just bounced. Maybe he got recruited.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to say, that college coaches have way more time off. Like, no, college coaches are working 24/7 because even when they don't have football practice to worry about, they have to go out and schmooze with the donors. Then they have to go recruit these kids almost year round. And then when you're not recruiting, spring ball has started, and then you're not recruiting more. And then now summer practice has started, and then it's the football season. This is nonstop. I would not want to be, if I had a choice between a college coach and an NFL coach, I am being an NFL coach.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll talk to during the draft season or when I'm at the combine or Senior Bowl, and you talk to young coaches, young assistants, and you're like, hey, would you like to get into college? And 99% of them, some of them say, yeah, I wouldn't mind it. Most of them say, I can't deal with the idea of having to babysit and basically be at the every beck and call of 17, 18-year-olds when you're recruiting them. And then once they get to college, have to deal with that part of it. So,
Wilson, let me ask you this. You guys, the question is, can any NFL coaches take college coaching vacancies? What do you think? Because you know whose line Brian Kelly used a couple weeks ago? Mike Tomlin's line. You think with Big Ben leaving, Mike might think, I don't feel like sticking around for this rebuild, and maybe he thinks about going to college?
Well,
is there any possible way?
I just asked Brinson, how much would it take for you to ask a Steelers beat reporter to suggest to Mike Tomlin, is he going to take the Notre Dame job? And as he rightly noted, you would get punched in the face. So I would recommend Breech go to Pittsburgh for the Tuesday press conference and ask that very question just to see the reaction. No, he's not. He might, but no one's asking him that after the way he melted down a month ago or whatever. And and took it very personally. It seemed like.
Because I feel like other than you guys mentioned Rhule, Urban Meyer, Kliff Kingsbury, I feel like those are the only 3 NFL coaches that would even think about leaving for the college.
Wait, who's the third?
Rhule.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tomlin was one of them. I was like, I don't think.
If you're a lifetime NFL head coach, there is no
You're not
way
going to
in
college.
hell you're going to college football.
Yeah.
No way in hell. You're just not doing it. You're staying in the league.